everyone, I am Chess Tactics. In the last two videos of my Chess Basics series, we learned how to move each piece in chess in the first video. In the second video, we learned about check, checkmate, and stalemate. In this video, we are going to learn about the special rules that pawns follow. If you end up liking my content, please hit the button and like my videos and also comment down below any suggestions that you have. Without further ado, let's get to the video. Okay, so you guys already know that the pawn can move either one or two squares if it's in its first turn. After moving its first turn, the next move, pawn can only move one square. As you already know, pawns can only move forward. So, a question might have come in some of your minds. What will happen if the pawn gets to the last rank of the board? For white, the last rank is the 8th rank, while for black, the last rank is the first rank. I'll be making a video about chess notation to explain all the ranks, files, and how to record your games. I will put a link in the description as well as in the top right through a eye icon. So let's get back to this video. What will happen if a pawn gets to the last rank? Since a pawn can only move forward, you might think that the pawn is stuck, and the chess rules also say so. So, the pawn has no value once it reaches to the 8th rank. To avoid this, the rule of promotion was invented. When a pawn gets to its last rank of the board, it can be turned into the queen, a knight, a rook, or a bishop. Now, this might seem very strange, but when you think about it, it actually makes sense. As I've said before, the pawn on the last rank is stuck. So, by turning it into a piece that can move backwards, the pawn preserves some of its value while also getting extra value for journeying to the last rank. Now, most of the time, the players promote to a queen, which is logical since the queen is the most powerful piece. However, in some situations, some players also need to promote to another piece. This is called underpromotion. When instead of promoting a pawn to a queen, the person promotes to a knight, a rook, or a bishop. In the next example, we'll see why underpromotion is important. Okay, in this position, it's white to move, and white has two pawns, but black has a queen. On the good side, white uh, can advance one of its pawns and promote it. But what should he promote it to? Well, to some it might seem logical because a queen is the most powerful piece. But after white promotes, black can simply take white's pawn on h4, and since both sides have queens, the position is most likely a draw. Going back, now we see the importance of underpromotion. You might see that if a knight were on this square, it would be attacking the black king and the black queen. Now, that seems a good idea. So let's promote this pawn to a knight and see what happens. After white promotes to a knight, it's checked to the black king and the black queen is also attacked. After the black king moves anywhere, white can just take the black queen, and even if black king attacks white's knight, white can defend its knight. You see, using a simple concept, you can turn a position to your advantage. Now, let's see another special rule by pawns. This is called en passant. Now, it might seem hard to believe, but before the modern era, like before the modern chess, there was actually a rule that pawn couldn't move two squares even in its first turn. The pawn could only move one square. So, as you can see, if white wants to move this pawn, for example, the pawn could only move one square and get captured. After some time, people started to think that they wanted more flavor to the game. And so, the pawn moving two spaces in its first move was invented. Now, some players thought that it was very unfair because this pawn could not avoid this pawn before, but now it could avoid this pawn as it could not be captured. So, another rule was invented that if enemy pawn moves two square and then it is directly parallel to an to your pawn, after moving two squares, then the your pawn can move one square diagonal behind the enemy pawn and the enemy pawn would get captured. As you can see, if white moves this pawn one square and the capture happens, it looks the same as on passant. So this is how en passant works. But there are also a few rules that have to be followed. First of all, en passant has to occur on the turn. So for example, white plays this pawn two squares forward, and let's say black ignores this and moves his king, and white pushes one of his other pawns. Now black cannot perform en passant. En passant has to be performed after the enemy pawn moves like this. Only in this move can black capture en passant, or he will not get a chance to capture en passant. Hope you guys enjoyed this video about the special rules followed by pawns. If you like my content, please press the subscribe button. In the next video, we'll see about the confusing concept of pawn structure and how you should maintain your pawns.